The townspeople of Red Hollow had already made up their minds about the horse. They said it was a monster. Not just wild. Not just dangerous. A monster. And if you had been there the day the black stallion exploded across the canyon ridge, manure whipping like a storm cloud, hooves striking the red earth like thunder, you might have believed them too. Because 3 men had already been thrown. One had broken his collarbone. Another swore the horse tried to stomp him after he fell. And the third, well, he refused to even say the animal's name again. They called the stallion Devil's Shadow. And the town wanted him gone. But one cowboy wasn't so sure. His name was Cole Mercer. Cole had spent most of his life around horses, ranch horses, rodeo horses, wild mustangs pulled from the desert. He understood something most people didn't. Horses didn't become monsters for no reason. Still, even Cole had to admit the stories sounded bad. Very bad. Horse like that don't belong near people, the sheriff muttered one evening inside the dim glow of Red Hollow's only bar. The place smelled of dust, leather, and cheap whiskey. Thing nearly killed Jim Tarlow, another rancher said. Should put a bullet in it before it hurts someone else. Heads nodded all around. Cole leaned quietly against the counter, turning the chipped coffee mug slowly between his hands. Outside, the wind pushed sand across the empty street. Finally, Cole spoke. You sure the horse is the problem? The room went silent. Several men turned toward him. Cole, one rancher said slowly, that animal attacked 3 men. Cole raised an eyebrow. Or 3 men attacked a scared horse. A few people scoffed. But Cole didn't argue further. Because he'd heard something else about Devil's Shadow. Something strange. The horse never attacked first. Not once. Every story began the same way. Someone tried to rope him. Someone chased him. Someone tried to break him. And then chaos followed. That wasn't the behavior of a killer. That was the behavior of something terrified. 2 days later, Cole rode out to find the horse. The sun was just climbing over the jagged cliffs when he reached the canyon valley where Devil's Shadow had last been seen. The place looked like another world. Dusty red rock walls towered above narrow trails. Scrubby grass pushed through cracks in the earth. A small creek twisted quietly through the canyon floor. Cole dismounted slowly. His horse, a calm chestnut gelding named Ranger, flicked his ears nervously. Easy, boy, Cole murmured. The wind shifted. Then Ranger froze. Cole felt it instantly. Another presence. Somewhere nearby. A shadow moved along the ridge. Cole slowly lifted his eyes. And there he was. The black stallion stood silhouetted against the morning sky. Even from a distance, he was breathtaking. Tall. Powerful. His coat shone like polished obsidian in the rising sun. But his posture wasn't proud. It was tense. Ready to explode. The horse's ears pinned back as soon as he spotted Cole. Then came the sound. A sharp, warning snort that echoed across the canyon. Cole didn't move. Didn't reach for a rope. Didn't even step forward. He simply stood there, letting the horse study him. Seconds passed. Then minutes. The stallion circled along the ridge, muscles rippling beneath his dark coat. Cole could almost feel the fear radiating from him. Not rage. Fear. Something had happened to this horse. Something bad. Finally, the stallion stamped his hoof and let out a wild scream that shattered the quiet canyon. Then he bolted. A streak of black lightning disappearing across the cliffs. Ranger exhaled sharply beneath Cole. Cole just smiled faintly. Well, he muttered. That's one scared horse. Back in town that evening, the reaction was exactly what Cole expected. You went looking for that thing, the sheriff barked. Cole nodded calmly. And he ran. Several ranchers frowned. That's it. That's it. One man slammed his hand on the table. Cole, you're not seeing what we saw. That horse is mean. Cole leaned forward. Mean horses attack when they have the chance. The room grew quiet. That stallion had me dead in his sights this morning, Cole continued. Didn't charge. Didn't chase. Didn't even come close. So what are you saying? Someone asked. Cole took a slow breath. I'm saying Devil's Shadow isn't a monster. He paused. I think he's protecting something. Now the room looked confused. Protecting what? The sheriff asked. Cole stared out the dusty window toward the darkening hills. That's what I'm going to find out. 3 mornings later, Cole returned to the canyon. But this time, he came alone. No rope. No saddle. No plan to capture the stallion. Just patience. Because if Devil's Shadow really was protecting something, then eventually, the horse would lead him straight to it. And what Cole was about to discover in that canyon would change everything the town believed about the so-called monster horse. But first, the stallion had to decide whether Cole was an enemy, or the first human he could finally trust. And that decision was coming sooner than either of them expected. The morning sun had barely crested the canyon walls when Cole set foot into the narrow passageways, feeling the tension in the air like static electricity. The silence was broken only by the distant call of a hawk and the faint rustle of scrub grass in the wind. He knew Devil's Shadow was near. He could sense it before he even saw the first ripple of the stallion's dark coat along the ridge. Cole moved slowly, each step deliberate. He had learned early that wild horses read every motion, every twitch of muscle, every flicker of the eyes. One wrong move here, one sudden gesture, and the horse could vanish forever, or worse, lash out. And yet, something told Cole that today, the stallion wasn't just running. Something had changed. A low snort reached him from behind a rocky outcropping. He froze. Easy, boy, he whispered, though Ranger was tethered 100 yards away. He knew the sound was for him, not his horse. Then he saw it, a glimmer of black movement, like a shadow skimming the edge of sunlight. Devil's Shadow was watching him, muscles coiled, nostrils flaring, eyes dark and wary. Cole didn't approach. Instead, he lowered himself to the ground, sitting on a sun-warmed rock. He stayed silent, letting the wind carry his presence without threat. Minutes passed. The stallion shifted, pawed the earth, then, unexpectedly, he stepped closer. Closer, and then stopped. Eyes locked with Cole's. That was the first time he felt it. Recognition. Not fear, not hostility, but curiosity. Cole exhaled slowly. I know, he murmured. I'm not here to hurt you. The stallion snorted again, shorter this time, almost like a question. And then Cole noticed something he hadn't expected. The rocks around a small cave entrance were disturbed, trampled as if something or someone had been dragged there recently. Instinct and experience collided in Cole's mind. Horses don't guard empty spaces. And Devil's Shadow wasn't just a wild horse. He was a protector. A knot of tension twisted in Cole's chest. He had a choice: retreat, let the horse, and whatever it was guarding, remain hidden, or move closer and risk everything. He chose the latter. Easy, he said again, inching toward the cave. Every step deliberate, slow, hands visible. Devil's Shadow followed, just at the edge of safety, eyes never leaving him. Cole crouched near the entrance, peering inside. The shadows hid most of the interior, but he could make out a faint shape. A small bundle, huddled, shivering. Heart racing, Cole realized it wasn't an animal. Not a deer, not a fawn. It was human. A child. A girl. Pale, tangled hair, dirt-streaked face, eyes wide with fear. She shrank back when she saw him, a soft whimper escaping her lips. Hey, it's okay, Cole said, voice low and steady. I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm here to help. The stallion shifted, positioning himself between Cole and the girl, a living barrier. His body tense, muscles ready, ears pinned in warning. Cole glanced at him. I see now, you've been protecting her. The girl's eyes darted between Cole and the horse. She whispered something too faint to catch, but the meaning was clear: don't come closer. Cole stayed where he was. I won't. Not unless you say it's okay. Minutes passed, and slowly, the girl inched forward, guided by the stallion's subtle movements. Cole saw the bond. Devil's Shadow wasn't just defending. He was negotiating trust. Cole's mind raced. Who was she? How long had she been here? Why hadn't anyone in Red Hollow noticed? The girl's voice cracked as she finally spoke. They said I'd never get out. Cole's heart tightened. Who said that? She shook her head. Tears streaked across her cheeks. I don't know, bad men, they. Devil's shadow stomped, a sharp warning that cut through the air. Cole nodded in understanding. The stallion wasn't just guarding her from physical threats. He was shielding her from fear itself. Cole took another slow step forward. I can get you out of here, he said gently. You're safe now. The girl looked at the stallion, eyes wide, then back at Cole. A tremor ran through her body. Finally, she nodded slightly. The stallion relaxed just a fraction, enough for Cole to see the relief in his posture. It was subtle, but it was there. Cole took a deep breath and extended a hand slowly. I'm Cole. You don't have to run anymore. You're safe with me. The girl hesitated, then touched his hand lightly. The trust, fragile and new, was enough. In that moment, the true story of Devil's Shadow became clear. The townspeople had called him a monster because they didn't understand. Because they saw aggression and fear but missed the love, the loyalty, and the courage beneath. Cole felt a surge of admiration. Here was a creature who had suffered, who had faced misunderstanding and danger, and yet chose protection over retaliation. He glanced around the canyon. The rocky walls and narrow trails had hidden this secret world. He knew one wrong move now could destroy everything. But Cole had always been good at reading horses. He knew when to wait, when to act. Ranger, he whispered, and his chestnut horse stepped closer, calm. He looked at the stallion, who didn't move. Cole smiled faintly. See? We're friends. You'll see. Then came the first real challenge, getting the girl safely out of the canyon without spooking Devil's Shadow. One sudden noise, one misstep, and it could all collapse. Cole adjusted his pace, soft words spilling out as he inched forward, hands raised, showing he meant no harm. The girl followed, step by trembling step, while the stallion walked alongside her, protective, unwavering. When they reached the canyon's mouth, Cole felt the first real wave of relief. The light of the town stretched ahead, but more importantly, the horse hadn't bolted, the girl hadn't panicked, and no harm had come to either. Still, the story wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Because as they approached Red Hollow, Cole realized something chilling. Whoever had left the girl in that canyon had done it deliberately. And if she was here, safe now, it was only a matter of time before the people responsible came looking. Devil's Shadow, for all his loyalty, would have to face more than just fearful townspeople next. Cole's mind raced with plans. He couldn't let her go back into danger. Not now, not ever. And as he looked at the stallion, black coat gleaming in the rising sun, he knew something else. This wasn't just about saving the girl. This was about proving to the town that monsters weren't always what they seemed. Sometimes, they were heroes. Sometimes, they were misunderstood. And sometimes, they were the very thing that could save a life when no one else could. The town of Red Hollow was buzzing by the time Cole and the girl emerged from the canyon. People stopped in the dusty street, jaws dropping at the sight of the black stallion standing beside him, muscles tense, eyes alert, ears flicking at every whisper of sound. Devil's Shadow hadn't bolted. He hadn't reared or attacked. He simply stood, as if daring anyone to judge him now. And the judgment came anyway. They brought the monster back, someone muttered. Cole, what are you thinking? The sheriff said, stepping forward. You brought that thing right into town. Cole's chest tightened, but he didn't flinch. He's not a monster, he said firmly. He's saved a life today. That's the truth you need to see. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some faces were skeptical. Others curious. Children peeked from behind their parents. Cole noticed a mix of fear and awe, and he knew this moment could go either way. The girl, still trembling, stayed close to Cole's side. Her hands gripped his jacket as if he were the only anchor in a world that had been cruel to her. Who is she? The sheriff asked. Cole hesitated, measuring his words. The girl had to feel safe, first and foremost. She's safe now, he said softly. That's all that matters. I'll explain more once we're inside. Devil's Shadow shifted, letting out a low, almost musical whinny. It was a sound filled with pride, but also with caution, as if warning the town not to make any sudden moves. A rancher stepped forward. "Cole, that horse, he's dangerous. We've seen him throw men before. You can't trust him." Cole met the man's gaze. Trust isn't given because of fear. It's earned. And today, he earned it. Some in the crowd shook their heads. Others exchanged whispers. One woman muttered, "Maybe the horse isn't the monster after all." The girl tugged on Cole's sleeve, eyes wide. They'll take me back, won't they?" Cole crouched to meet her gaze. "Not if I can help it. You're not going back there. Not today, not ever. Devil's Shadow wouldn't let it happen, and neither will I." Her lips trembled, and she finally allowed herself a small nod. Cole's heart ached, seeing the trust forming between them, fragile, but real. That evening, Cole led them to his ranch, a modest place on the outskirts of town. The sun dipped below the hills, painting the sky in streaks of orange and purple. Devil's Shadow followed, careful, glancing at Cole, then at the girl, as if ensuring that nothing would harm either of them. Inside the barn, Cole gave the girl a blanket. She wrapped herself in it, still wary, still trembling, but safe. Cole leaned against the stall door, looking at Devil's Shadow. The stallion's chest rose and fell slowly, muscles still coiled but relaxed enough to show he had calmed after the day's events. "You did good today," Cole murmured. "Better than anyone could have expected." The horse nickered softly, eyes bright. It was as if he understood every word, every intention. Cole spent the next hour talking quietly with the girl, learning her story in fragments. She had been taken from her home, hidden away in that canyon by men who wanted to use her to manipulate her family's ranch. She had been left there for months, surviving on scraps, always alone except for the horse who had watched over her. Cole's jaw tightened. "You've been through hell," he said softly. "But it's over now. You're safe." The girl's eyes filled with tears, and she finally allowed herself a small smile. He saved me," she whispered, glancing at Devil's Shadow. Cole nodded. "Yeah, he did. And now you're going to help him save you the rest of the way." The night was quiet. The barn smelled of hay and horses, warm and safe. Cole fed Devil's Shadow and brushed his coat, careful not to startle him. The stallion allowed it, standing still, muscles relaxed, a sign of trust that was hard-earned. But just as the first stars appeared in the sky, a noise outside made Cole's heart stop. Footsteps. Several pairs, deliberate, heavy. The men who had hidden the girl, they had tracked her. Cole's instincts kicked in. He reached for his revolver, but Devil's Shadow stepped forward, positioning himself between the barn doors and Cole. The horse's eyes glowed in the moonlight, nostrils flaring, muscles coiled. He wasn't just standing guard. He was ready to fight. Cole took a deep breath. "Stay calm," he whispered to the girl. "He's not going to let anything happen to you." The barn doors creaked. Shadows moved outside. One of the men tried to push the door open. Devil's Shadow struck, hooves thundering against the ground, powerful enough to make the man stumble back in shock. Cole realized then that this wasn't just a test of courage. This was the moment the town would see the truth about the stallion. The so-called monster. The men hesitated, eyes wide with fear. Devil's Shadow snorted, muscles twitching, ready to charge. Cole stepped forward, voice steady. "Leave. Now. Or you'll regret it." The men froze. For a tense moment, it seemed as if time itself held its breath. Then, slowly, they backed away, disappearing into the night, shadows swallowed by the canyon. The barn was quiet again. The girl hugged Cole tightly, trembling with relief. Devil's Shadow lowered his head, nuzzling her gently, as if to reassure her it was over. Cole rubbed the stallion's neck. "You did it," he murmured. "You protected her. Just like I knew you would." For the first time in Red Hollow's memory, people began to see Devil's Shadow for what he truly was, not a monster, but a guardian. A hero. Cole knew this was only the beginning. The town would have questions. The girl's family would demand answers. And Devil's Shadow's past, his scars, his fear, his mistrust of humans, would have to be understood before anyone could ever fully accept him. But for now, the immediate danger was gone. The bond between the girl and the horse had deepened, cemented in a life-or-death moment. Cole knew that bond would only grow stronger with time. And he also knew that in saving her, Devil's Shadow had saved more than just a life, he had saved the truth about himself. A creature once labeled a monster was finally showing the world what it truly meant to be brave, loyal, and extraordinary. The next morning, Red Hollow was buzzing. Word had spread quickly about the girl being found, and about Devil's Shadow standing his ground against the men who had kidnapped her. Whispers and murmurs filled the streets, and for the first time, the town's fear of the Black Stallion was mingled with awe. Cole led the girl and Devil's Shadow toward the town center, careful to keep her calm. Every step brought stares, some wide-eyed, some suspicious, others filled with curiosity. Children pointed and whispered, and a few adults shook their heads, still unwilling to let go of the old narrative. "You can't just parade that horse around like he's some hero," one man muttered as Cole passed. "People were hurt before." Cole ignored him. "And now no one will be hurt again," he replied softly, keeping his voice steady so the girl could hear. The girl clung to Cole's side, eyes wide but trusting. Devil's Shadow followed closely, mane glinting in the morning sun, a living testament to courage and protection. They stopped in front of the sheriff's office. Sheriff Daniels emerged, eyebrows raised, as Cole dismounted. "He did it," Cole said simply, nodding toward the stallion. "Protected her. Against people who meant to harm her. And he didn't hurt anyone else in the process." The sheriff's face shifted, a flicker of respect overtaking his skepticism. "So you're saying, this horse isn't a monster?" Cole shook his head. "He's never been a monster. He's been misunderstood. He's been scared. And he's been loyal, more loyal than most humans around here." A hush fell over the crowd that had gathered. Some townspeople exchanged glances, unsure whether to believe him. Cole crouched down next to the girl. "You've been through a lot," he said gently. "Do you want to tell anyone your story?" The girl shook her head. "Not yet. I just want to be safe." Cole nodded. "And you will be." He looked up at Devil's Shadow, and the stallion's dark eyes met his. A silent conversation passed between them. Words weren't needed. They both knew the town's hearts could be changed, one step at a time. Over the next few days, Cole worked with Devil's Shadow, helping the horse acclimate to the town again but on his own terms. The stallion was wary at first, ears twitching at every sudden movement, eyes scanning every alley. But Cole moved slowly, with patience and respect. He didn't push. He didn't force. And slowly, the townspeople began to see. Children approached cautiously, holding out hands, offering apples. Adults watched from a distance, still cautious but curious. And every time Devil's Shadow responded with calm interest rather than aggression, the narrative began to shift. One afternoon, Cole took the girl to the canyon to revisit the spot where she had been found. Devil's Shadow followed, quiet and watchful. The girl knelt by the creek, splashing water gently, her eyes reflecting sunlight and newfound hope. "You saved me," she whispered, looking up at the stallion. The stallion nickered softly, almost as if answering her, as if to say, "You saved me too, by trusting me." Cole watched from a distance, heart swelling. He knew the bond between them wasn't just survival, it was mutual respect, healing, and understanding. Back in town, however, not everyone was convinced. A small group of ranchers still muttered about the horse's past aggression. Cole stood in front of them one evening, the warm glow of the setting sun painting the scene like a cinematic frame. "You've seen him with her," he said firmly. "He's not a monster. He's a protector. And if you'd spend even half the time understanding him instead of fearing him, you'd see the truth." The men muttered, but there was no anger this time. Something about seeing Devil's Shadow beside the girl, calm and watchful, softened even the hardest hearts. Cole continued, all his life, he's been judged for defending himself, for being scared, for standing his ground. Today, he saved a life. That's the truth. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the town. Devil's Shadow stepped forward, head held high, mane flowing in the wind. The townspeople couldn't ignore him anymore. Later that night, Cole sat by the barn, brushing the stallion's coat. The girl sat nearby, quietly sketching in a notebook she had found in Cole's barn. It was a peaceful moment, one that seemed almost unreal given everything that had happened. "You were amazing today," Cole murmured. "You did more than anyone could have expected." Devil's shadow nudged him gently, as if agreeing. The bond between them had strengthened, forged in the fires of trust, courage, and shared understanding. Cole's mind wandered back to the past. He remembered the stories the town had told about Devil's shadow, thrown men, near attacks, broken fences. But he now understood that every act of aggression had been fear disguised as defense. Every strike, every stomp, every wild dash had been a plea, "Don't hurt me." And now the town was beginning to see that, too. The next day, Cole brought the girl to her family. The reunion was emotional, tears and embraces flowing freely. Devil's shadow stood a short distance away, watching, alert but calm. The family looked at Cole, gratitude shining in their eyes. "You saved her," her mother whispered. Cole nodded. "Not just me. Him too." He gestured toward the stallion, who met the family's gaze with steady, unwavering eyes. The mother stepped forward cautiously. I don't understand how you." Cole smiled. "He's not a monster. He's a hero. And sometimes, heroes just look a little different than we expect." As the girl's family thanked him, Cole felt a surge of pride. The hardest part wasn't over yet, but he knew the seed of understanding had been planted. Devil's shadow's reputation would change, one heart at a time. That night, Cole stood outside under the stars, looking at the stallion. "We did good," he whispered. "You showed them the truth. You're not a monster." The stallion snorted softly, nuzzling Cole's shoulder. It was a gesture of trust, of gratitude, of shared triumph. And Cole knew, deep down, that this story, the story of a horse once called a monster, and the cowboy who believed in him, was only just beginning. The sun rose over Red Hollow with a golden glow, illuminating a town that had changed more than anyone realized. Cole led Devil's shadow and the girl through the main street, and this time, the crowd didn't gasp in fear. Instead, they whispered in awe. Children followed at a cautious distance, adults stared with newfound respect, and even the ranchers who had doubted him looked on with silent admiration. The girl walked beside Cole, holding his hand, a small smile on her face. For the first time in months, she felt safe, and not just because of Cole, but because of the stallion who had never left her side. Devil's shadow walked proudly, head held high, mane catching the sunlight, the image of a creature redeemed in the eyes of those who had once labeled him a monster. Cole stopped near the town square. "Everyone," he called out, "this horse isn't dangerous. He's not a monster. He's brave, loyal, and protective. He saved a life, and if you take the time to understand him, he might just change the way you see all horses." A hush fell over the crowd. Then, slowly, people began to clap. First a few, then many more. Children cheered. Adults nodded. The town had witnessed something extraordinary. The undeniable courage of a misunderstood horse. The girl stepped forward, holding Devil's shadow's reins gently. "He saved me," she said softly, voice trembling but strong. "And he's amazing. I want everyone to know that." Her words carried weight. Everyone listened. Cole saw the tears in some eyes and the soft smiles on others. The story of the black stallion, the so-called monster, was changing. With every word, with every look, he became more than a feared legend. He became a hero. Cole took a step closer to the girl. "You're safe now," he said quietly. "No one will ever hurt you again. And this," he gestured to Devil's shadow, "is proof that courage and trust can come from the most unexpected places." A woman from the crowd spoke up, voice trembling. I never realized. We judged him too quickly." Cole nodded. "We all do. Sometimes fear makes us see monsters where there are none. But today, you've seen the truth." The stallion let out a soft nicker, nuzzling the girl's shoulder. The sight was almost cinematic, a creature once feared for his strength and unpredictability now offering gentle reassurance, a living bridge between danger and safety. But just as the town began to celebrate, Cole noticed movement at the edge of the square. The men who had kidnapped the girl, the ones who had forced her into the canyon, were approaching, their faces hardened, thinking they could reclaim control. Cole's hand went to his revolver, but Devil's Shadow stepped forward, muscles rippling, eyes blazing. The crowd fell silent, sensing the tension. The stallion was ready, not just to defend, but to assert the courage that had earned him a second chance. One of the men sneered, underestimating the stallion. "You think a horse can stop me?" he spat. Devil's Shadow let out a thunderous snort, pawing the ground. The air vibrated with power and presence. He wasn't just a horse anymore. He was a guardian, a living testament to loyalty and bravery. Cole stepped in front of the girl. "Back off," he said firmly. "You have no right here. Leave now." The men hesitated, eyes widening as Devil's Shadow shifted, lowering his head, ears pinned, ready to charge. There was no aggression in the wrong sense. This was pure, controlled power, courage infused with protection. Finally, the men backed away, muttering threats they dared not act upon. The crowd exhaled as one. The girl hugged Cole tightly, relief washing over her. Cole knelt beside Devil's Shadow, running a hand along his glossy black mane. "You did it," he murmured. "You've saved her, and now you've saved all of us too." The town erupted in applause. Children ran to touch the stallion, and adults approached cautiously, offering pats and soft words. Devil's Shadow, though wary, accepted the gestures, a sign that trust had been fully established, not just with Cole or the girl, but with the entire town. Over the next few days, Red Hollow embraced their hero. Cole organized a small demonstration for townspeople, a chance to see Devil's Shadow's skills, his calm around humans, his loyalty. The black stallion moved with grace and power, showing that his earlier aggression had been fear, not malice. The girl, now safe with her family, visited often, brushing his mane, talking to him in soft, soothing tones. A bond had formed that would last a lifetime. And Cole knew that the black stallion, once labeled a monster, had finally earned his place, not just in their hearts, but in the story of Red Hollow itself. One evening, as the sun set behind the red cliffs, Cole, the girl, and Devil's Shadow stood together on the ridge overlooking the canyon. The wind tugged at their hair and mane alike, carrying the scent of freedom, safety, and trust. "You were amazing," Cole said softly, looking at the stallion. "You've shown them all what true courage is. Not by hurting, not by fighting for nothing, but by protecting, by trusting, by standing for something that matters." The stallion let out a low, satisfied nicker, eyes bright with understanding. The girl leaned against Cole, hands resting on the horse's back. In that moment, the world felt right, a harmony of human and horse, fear and courage, past and future. And as the sky deepened into shades of violet and gold, the story of the horse once called a monster was complete. He had faced misunderstanding, fear, and danger. He had saved a life. And in the hearts of those who had once feared him, he had inspired awe, respect, and love. Cole looked at the girl and then at Devil's Shadow. "You've changed everything," he said. "And maybe, just maybe, people will remember that sometimes the monsters we fear are really the heroes we need." The girl smiled, brushing the stallion's mane. "Thank you," she whispered. The black stallion nickered again, a soft, proud sound, as if acknowledging her words. Cole's eyes swept over Red Hollow, the town finally learning a lesson they would never forget. Courage, loyalty, and love can come in the most unexpected forms. And for Devil's Shadow, the horse who had been labeled a monster, this was only the beginning of a new life, one filled with trust, companionship, and the undeniable knowledge that he was, and always had been, extraordinary. Cole's parting thought lingered in the quiet canyon air. Sometimes, the truth isn't what everyone says it is. Sometimes, it's the quiet acts of bravery that change the world. And with that, the black stallion nickered one last time, silhouetted against the sunset, a living legend in a town that would never forget him.